On behalf of Morganton City Council, which is Forrest Fleming, Mayor Pro Tem, Sidney Simmons, Wendy Cato, and Chris Hawkins, welcome. This is an exciting day for Morganton and especially this community. I'd like to recognize some of the people who had a part in making this happen. We had John Cantrell, former councilman who worked to help get this project started. Mel Cohen, our former mayor, who worked to help get this project started. Gary Linhart, a retired director of Morganton Parks and Recreation, the mastermind behind the renovations. Lee Anderson, our former director of development and design. Sally Sandys here, who helped spearhead the project. Our county commissioners, I think they're here. Johnny Carswell, chairman. Scott Mulvey, vice chairman. Maynard Taylor, Wayne Abel, and Jeff Britton. From the Burke County Board of Education, we have Randy Burns, who's chair. Buddy Armour, our vice chair. Sam Wilkinson, Don Hemstreet, Ariel Likard, Edna Weller, Seth Hunt Jr. We have Doug Setzer, who's director for the Schools of Auxiliary Services. Mike Swan, the director of Student Services and a community liaison. Charles Williams, who's the principal of Mountain View Elementary School. Barbara Myers, the NAACP chapter president. Jordan Wisnett from Congressman Mehta's office. Steve Villar, the executive director of the Morganton Public Housing Authority. And Alan Lake, the district governor for District 31, Lions Club, Western North Carolina. The Morganton Lions Club gave $1,500 to this project. I'd like to also thank Allison Lane and Sarah Sexton, who wrote the Kate B. Reynolds grant and facilitated some of the community meetings and focus grants. We have Michael Burley, who is the project manager for the City of Morganton, who spent endless hours with public input and playground equipment vendor to design this park. We have Alan Fullwood, who's a great community leader and has been involved in the process for this park from the very beginning. He's helped to get the citizens out to give input and feedback at focus group meetings. We'll hear from Alan in just a few minutes. And Jason Basden, the program officer for Kate B. Reynolds Charitable Trust. The Kate B. Reynolds gave a grant for $150,000. I'd like to give a shout out to the Parks and Recreation Foundation, which gave a grant for $250,000. Those people include Caroline Avery, Mike Ayotte, Pat Grady, Clint Lytle, Jerry Norville, Robert Salisbury, Scott Westnut, who chairs the foundation, Lisa Buff, Ed Jones, and Matilda Kistler. Most of all, we'd like to thank the Mountain View community. This community is an integral part of Morganton and has been extremely supportive throughout this process. We can't wait for the children and the adults of this community can come and enjoy the park and have fun. I want to actually recognize the folks over here in the purple shirts. The recreation staff, would you raise your hands? Just the staff. They did it a lot. I now want to turn the mic over to Rob Winkler. Rob is our director of the Parks and Recreation. He's worked very hard to make this park a reality, even in the last 24 hours. He's talked with the public about their wishes for the park. He's worked on multiple collaborations to get the work done and to meet the budget. This week, he's even been out there with his entire staff with shovels and rakes cleaning after the storm and making sure everything was beautiful and ready for today's ribbon cutting. We're grateful for his dedication. Rob, please come forward.
First, I want to say nothing against the mayor, okay, because he sounds great, but the best sound you're going to hear is this right here behind us. That's why we're here, and then that's the whole focus of this is for the kids and have somewhere to play. Good afternoon and welcome to our ribbon cutting. It's an honor to be here with you and work for you. And I guess if you turn this way, you know why this is called Mountain View. We've got the best view in town right here. What a beautiful sight and a beautiful place to have a park for the children and for the citizens. I've had the privilege to work on this project from the beginning, and one thing you always, when you talk about things like this, the last thing you want to do is leave somebody out. But there's a few that I want to recognize. I see Scott Luckadoo. I saw Tim Clay. The Public Works Department were an integral part of this. They supplied many of man hours that helped keep our costs down and keep us within budget. So I can't say enough thanks for those guys. Brad Boris, Public Utilities, water, sewer that we had to run and work together with those guys. I really appreciate that. Brooks Kirby with the electric department. We had to run new electric services through the park. Once we started grading, a lot of the old was out of shape and wouldn't work, so we had to rewire the whole thing. So Great appreciation to Brooks. And Philip Lookadoo, Development Design Director. Those guys worked hourly with me because I know I had a bunch of crazy ideas, and I had Michael Burley, and some of them kept me in check and said, no, we can't do that, but this is what we can do. So Philip's guys did a great job with this too, so all of them. And I especially want to thank my staff, the Recreation Department, because sometimes I get a little stressed, and sometimes I'm probably a little difficult, but these guys put up with me, and they've done a great job, and hey, you get to see what you've been a part of here, and I really appreciate it, and I thank you for that. Also, I want to thank, as the mayor did, I want to thank the Parks and Recreation Foundation for a $250,000 commitment to this park. Morganton is very blessed to have a foundation like this that can help promote and put money back into the parks for kids and for our citizens as a whole. Also, the Kate B. Reynolds Foundation for their donation of $150,000. That really made this park, it gave us a budget of about $400,000. And then let me say, out of that, about 60 to 70,000 of that went for grading, because a lot of you know how this park used to be. Grading is very expensive, but that also takes away from some of the other things that we can do with this park. But we wanted to stay on the original site, and we was able to get that done. So technically, when you see what you see here is really about $330,000. And I can't say enough about the vendors we worked with, the in-kind service that the city worked together to prepare this with, to give you the best bang for the buck. We've got so much more park here than what we've got invested here. It's unbelievable. And we're not finished. There's other things that we're going to do here as well. And I could talk for hours, and I know I'm not allowed to today, so I'm going to keep moving kind of quickly. The history of the park, just a little bit about it. The original park was constructed and dedicated in 1987. And as I said, most of you knew the facility. You know how the original slope here came all the way down. And some of the amenities that were located here, we had a little walking track, some small shelters, playground equipment, and things like that. And although it served the community very well for many years, there was a lot of challenges with this park. The terrain, for one, accessibility, and just be honest with you, the overall maintenance of the park. It was very difficult to keep things up to spec and speed where it needed to be. So, with that said, Gary Linhart and some of the others led meetings to try to discuss new ideas of things that we wanted to do here. And I know we had a very positive collaboration with the community here, which was very important, because that's one thing we wanted, was input to try to make it a community park, not something just a few people decided they wanted to put in here, but we wanted feedback from the community. So during those meetings, the community meetings, some ideas came about. The ideas of a splash pad, new playground equipment, making some walking areas, making some areas accessible where people could get in and use the facilities. Everything you see here on this track is ADA compliant. There's also some poured solid surface in the back that you'll see that is ADA compliant. Children with disabilities can get on and use those, and there's several pieces of equipment there that's available for them to use as well. That's something we don't have in any other parks, and that's something we need to build on as a future and progress with that. So as we started this and we started gathering all these ideas, we started getting things underway. We started working on some different designs and some ideas of how to come together. With that, we reached out and we had several contractors come in and give us ideas. We decided to go with Site Concepts. Mr. Jack Huffman, he's here today. Jack worked, he's a Miracle Playground rep who has supplied these pieces here. Great pieces. There's other areas in North Carolina do not have these kind of pieces, and we're very proud of it. We also chose CMI Construction, which Chris Mosley's not here today, but he designs pools and splash pads. And I'll tell you a little bit about the splash pad here in just a minute. And then, like I said, along with development and design, the conceptual plans, we had to try to make everything fit. So doing that and working together, what you see here today is what we put together. And I'm very proud of it. I'm proud to be a part of it. So where do we go from here? As we progress, you can see, if you turn right over your back shoulder, you'll see a piece of equipment down there. That is an outdoor basketball court that's also in this project. We were really wanting to have that done this fall, but just with the sheer amount of rain and volume of rain we had, the surface just was not dry. So we didn't want to waste anything or do anything haphazardly. So they were actually wanting to start this week, but I told them they had to hold off because we didn't want the noise while we were here doing this. So, but that will be finished here in the next month, along with our access road in the back, so we can service and maintain the facility. Also, you can see we've got a lot of landscape and things we've done. We're not finished. We're going to continue to do that. We've got some things in the back that we're going to do. Also, the top area is going to be basically a passive park that we're going to utilize so people can come up top and stay. We kept the trees up there to try to generate some shade and give an overlook of the park. Now, one thing I do want to say is I want to really express how much I appreciate working with the school system in this project. As you know, the school system started and we started the park at the same time. We were a little delayed, but there was good reason behind it. The school system allowed us to team up with them and use some of the graders and some of the areas to share land and make this happen. I said $70,000. If we haven't done that, we probably would have been looking more like $100,000 for this. But one thing I want to tell you what I'm really proud of, and I get this question across the state when it comes up about splash pads. One key about splash pads, if you have what we call as a run-through system, people immediately think, well, you're wasting water. What are you doing with the water? Well, that was another thing that lengthened this design a little bit, but we're very proud of it. Our splash pad here is very unique. Our drainage system runs through pipes and runs down below and goes into a catch basin that the school is going to utilize that water. Then they'll pump that water out onto their multipurpose field for irrigation. So they're reclaiming our water and helping us become more environmentally responsible and use it to irrigate their field instead of just dumping it straight back into our creeks and on. So I'm very proud of that, and I really appreciate the school board and the school system working with us on this to kind of make this thing work. Now, lastly, and this is where it gets kind of serious for me. I can't express what a great honor it is to be a part of working for a park in the name of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We all know what he stood for, and we know what his legacy is. This man gave his life for equality of people and unity. And this reached towns all across this nation and continues to, and it's worldwide. And, with that, when I really look at this, I'm really proud because it's an honor just to be able to work on something like this. And me and my staff has talked about this, and even in the city. And I want to give you a couple words here. Principle, character, light, spirit, truth, freedom, forgive, human, forward, justice, love, and a dream. These are some of the words that Dr. King used throughout his life. And I know his inspiration was Jesus Christ. And I'm really proud of that. But also, Michael Burley and I sat down and we thought about some of these things and wondered what we could do to kind of put a special piece in with this park. Those words that I just read you are in stainless steel incorporated in the floor of the splash pad. So when our children play in this, they read these words, it's going to resonate with them, and they're going to wonder about it, and they're going to ask questions about it, and hopefully they're going to hear the story about it. Okay? With that said, I think it's a creative way to keep the word alive because that's what we want to do at the Recreation Department. So, again, let me say thank you, and I appreciate the time. I know I'm long-winded, and I can keep going. And my staff are all here, and afterwards, we're here for personal questions, anything about equipment, anything about the ideas and things. We'll be happy to talk as much as we can. And at this time, I want to bring Alan Fullwood up and ask him to speak just a little bit.
It's certainly a pleasure being here. Recognition has been given to various individuals and organizations and their monetary contributions to the refurbishing of Martin Luther King Jr. Park. there are a couple of names that were very key in the initial beginnings of this process. I can't give enough thanks to Nancy Taylor, who is with the Community Foundation, who brought many personalities together to meet with the representative from the Kate B. Reynolds Foundation. Reverend Bristol and the New Hope Baptist Church located on Bushell Street provided their facilities weekly and sometimes twice a week, and giving us time during their prayer service and even feeding us at times so that we could bring members of the community together, not only here on Bushell Street, but members of the community throughout. And we had pieces of paper all over their walls, crayons, etc. And that's where a lot of the community input started. And I can't thank them enough, Reverend Bristol and New Hope Baptist Church. It was a very cold fall evening. My former priest, Francis King, and the representative from the Kate B. Reynolds Foundation and myself traveled throughout Morganton, visiting the various communities and saying what can be done. And there's a lot that needs to be done. Our last stop was right here on this hill. And the sun was beginning to set, and it was getting very, very chilly. We sat there and we talked. And as I look now at this transformation that has occurred, we had no idea that it would turn out like this. Yes, we had a meager amount of money, at least that was being promised to us, and we said, well, we have to do with that $150,000. I wish Mayor Coyne was here. It took one phone call to him, and wheels began to turn. It excites me to see this transformation. See, I'm a son of Bushell Street, and I was raised by this community. I can recall as a kid coming down with a dirt field here and where we played, and many of us and our families had to suffer the indignities of the city trash dump being right over there. I remember the adults, the male adults in the community, on hot summer days, would come down the street with their .22s to shoot the rats that were there. I recall here on this hill where the city placed a rock crusher, and throughout the day the heavy loads of stone were hauled in, dumped in the rock crusher, and they'd back their dump trucks under there to catch the gravel. And it was left vacant for us kids, and we played on it. Luckily, none of us got killed. You know, it's amazing what can occur when reasonable people come together at the table and have dialogue. And I certainly hope that this evening, with this ribbon cutting, that it will initiate the opportunities for reasonable people to come together and have dialogue about the progress within the total community of Morganton. I always said, you know, Bushell was one of those areas that was always neglected and not spoken of in the most kind words. My family moved here from the rural area, my grandmother originating on Irish Creek and in Fontaflora, and I look at much of some of the correspondence in Fontaflora that had been exchanged with my family members. And we talk about the Fontaflora Trail here, and I just wonder what she would say about the Fontaflora Trail being literally in her former backyard. And so I guess we call that progress. And hopefully 10 years from now, we'll come back and have a dedication of some other area here within the city. I want to thank Rob. I know you came in at a very difficult time with the retirement of Mr. Linhart, and you had to sort of grab the bull by the horns, and you held on tightly. and to the other city officials, city manager, the council, etc., and the other organizations. Well, I think that sort of does it for my comments, and I think we're ready to sort of cut the ribbon, aren't we?
Come on.
You get to do it. I'm in a dress. Yeah. Wait, let me hide behind some wood. No. Oh, Lord.